Alrighty, so I must have done something wrong. I pushed a button. I'm learning, right? So this is part two. This is the second part and I wanted to get this part because um, I wanted to make sure that I pointed out about air pollution too, and my noticing of things here in North Carolina in our area. So let me first start with the animals that are coming back. So I'm going to share this. So animals have been coming back into the cities. So this is another positive that we're seeing. So wild animals are exploring cities during the coronavirus lockdown. Not as many people. So here you have monkeys coming into cities. I think this is in India. You've got wild deer coming in. This is in Japan, in a city in Japan. Here's another one in a city of Japan. You've got monkeys. I think this is New Delhi, India. We've already seen the Venice canals, and this is another deer in Japan. And then here in the United States, we're seeing animals coming into cities too. So as coronavirus restricts empty streets all around the world, wildlife roam further into the cities. They're also looking for food as part of why we're seeing this. So this, I'm not quite sure where this is actually. But you have a puma coming into a city. You can see that. You've got goats coming up onto people's porches. And then you've got wild deer. This is in Trincomalee. There's been sightings. That's in the background is San Francisco. That's San Francisco. That's the Golden Gate, and this is a coyote, which you don't normally see coyotes. You've got wild boar and wild dogs. This is a this is in Tel Aviv. You've got a wild, I think it is some kind of dog. You've got more dogs. You've got this is in Ronda, Spain. These are wild peacocks. Monkeys coming into New Delhi, India. Coyotes are being spotted in LA, which we never see either. Monkeys in Thailand. Look at all those monkeys. So we're seeing some really interesting things that are happening environmentally. Here's pigeons in Puerto Rico. Pigeons are taking over. These are deer, wild deer in Japan. So we're seeing a lot of wildlife coming into cities. They're looking for food too, but there's also less people, so they're moving back into and looking for space like animals will do. The other thing I wanted to point out, and this is an interesting video that I'll share with you, and this is off of research and observation done during 9/11, the 72 hours when we didn't have any airplanes in the air during 9/11, and some of the research that came out of that. And so I'm going to share this with you, and then I'm going to talk about some of the observations I've seen here in North Carolina.
Over the last several years has been dealing with the impacts that aviation has on surface climate, the climate near the ground where people live, and in particular how the false clouds that planes produce, so-called contrails, affect the energy coming in from the sun and the heat that goes out from the Earth's surface. And those two things together give us the surface temperature. The September 11th study on contrails and their effects on surface temperature was actually something that grew out of some earlier work that I had done that actually started back in the 1980s, in the mid-1980s, when I was at Indiana University in Bloomington, and I noticed that quite often in central Indiana there would be the skies would be covered with contrail clouds, and that actually started my research. The September 11th study was really an outgrowth of that. So our reason for looking at the September 11th to September 14th period was, of course, because it followed the terrorist attacks in Washington, D.C. and New York City. The response to that by the FAA was to ground all commercial aviation. So for essentially a 72-hour period, there was no commercial aviation in U.S. airspace. So the most recent study I've been involved in with contrails was to look to see if, on a longer-term basis, if we see an impact of contrails on the surface daily temperature range. And so what we did is we looked at areas where we do get a lot of contrails, the southeast and the Midwest, and looked at pairs of stations, of weather stations, which are most frequently underneath contrails versus stations which tend not to have many contrails occurring over them. And consistently we find that the diurnal or the daily temperature range is reduced under areas where you have a lot of contrails, but is larger. In other words, the daytime high is higher and the overnight low is lower in areas that don't see many contrails. So this study really supports what we found for the shorter term, that 72-hour period for the 9/11 study.
Okay, so let me just kind of go, I don't know, I'll just go here. So what I wanted to bring up was this. I have seen, I don't know why there's two of me. I have seen, let's see if I could just put one of me back. What I've seen in the last couple days, so the last 2 weeks or so, I've been noticing. First of all, a lot of times I have, I'm kind of in the path of the airplanes coming through to touchdown in RDU. And so I get a lot of airplanes over my house. I hear them, I see them. And since we've been in lockdown, I haven't seen as many airplanes, right? So in the last month, I've seen very few airplanes. I've heard very few airplanes, and it's almost non-existent. And at the same time, what I've noticed was that during the day, when we have blue skies, obviously today it's kind of yucky, and Monday morning it's supposed to be pretty yucky. So, but I want to challenge you to notice this too. When we've had nice skies, we've had really, really blue skies. And what I've noticed is the high clouds up almost in the stratosphere, those high, thin clouds. I haven't seen them. And a lot of those, based off of that video that we just watched, a lot of those clouds are caused by contrails. And if we don't have airplanes up there, then we're not seeing those contrails, right? And so what I'm noticing is bluer skies. And when we do have clouds, they're puffy clouds and they're closer to us. So they're tropospheric puffy clouds, white puffy clouds. On the flip side, at night, I'm also noticing that I'm rural, so I can normally see the stars, but I'm noticing I can really see the stars. And so what that means is that we don't have clouds at night. So I'm not seeing as many clouds. I'm seeing bluer skies during the day, and I'm not seeing as many clouds, and I'm seeing clearer skies at night. And that kind of goes with, we're having warmer days. Our days are slightly warmer and slightly colder nights. But that's kind of normal for North Carolina. But the blue skies are something that I've really been noticing. And so I challenge you that the next day, I think it's Tuesday, we're supposed to have a nice sunny day. Go out and take a look at the sky and see if you notice any of those really tall clouds way up high. You're probably not going to see those. You're going to see blue skies, really pretty color blue skies. And I haven't seen that. And I haven't had the opportunity to see that because we've always had airplanes in the sky. And since 9/11, this is the first time that we really don't have airplanes in the sky again. And so this is really interesting time to be noticing things for the environment, particularly air pollution, because we are not using the fossil fuels that we usually use, which is really cool because we can see all the kind of the ripple effects of using fossil fuels. So this is a really exciting time to be noticing headlines, to be noticing outdoors, what's happening, and just to be observant, because we're really in a unique situation that's never happened in our lifetime before. And definitely during time when we've used fossil fuels, we've never been in this situation where we really have shut it down. And so I challenge you to kind of be observant today, be observant this week, see if you can see the positive things that are coming out of this COVID. Because I know we all kind of are feeling lonely and we're getting a little stir crazy, but let's see if we can, my challenge to you is see if you can find something that's positive. So these were some of the positive things that I've seen, and this is what I wanted to bring to you today as our lesson, because I just think it's something that we should be kind of excited about too. So have a great day. Have a good Monday, and I'll see you all in Google Classroom.